Every single one of us has gaps and blind spots. And in my book, Lead to Win, in chapter 9, I talk about leadership and blind spots.
Always believe you were born to win. It's your right to win. Claim it, frame it, 'cause you were.
If you are a newly minted leader, then you have to understand that it is critical that you spend a couple of days thinking about where your gaps are. You've gotten the seat because you're ready. You have the skills, the talents, the experiences, and frankly, the network to successfully prosecute the opportunity that you have been given. But please know that we all have blind spots at every level of our career. And the trick to make sure that these blind spots do not become impediments to your ability to maximize your success in that new seat is to identify them and to close those gaps as quickly as you possibly can after you've gotten the opportunity. And if you've been in this seat for a little while, then it's still worth your time to think about where your gaps are and how you might be able to invest to close those gaps and to continue to evolve as an outstanding leader. I talk about 4 specific gaps in Lead to Win that I want to talk about right now. The first one is the failure to leverage the talent that is on your bench. In many cases, as a new leader, you have inherited your team. But in some cases, you may also have the opportunity to choose and to hire your team. Either way, it is very worth your while every other quarter to think about the inventory of talent that is sitting around your leadership table. It is my thesis that as leaders, we leave so much talent right on the table because we fail to ask for it or we fail to recognize it and to leverage it. In many cases, when you hire someone, you hire for a specific job. But while you're interviewing them, you notice that there are 4 or 5 different things that they could potentially do in your organization, but you are hiring them for this specific opportunity. 6 months go by, 3 years go by, and most leaders fail to go back to those resumes to make sure that they are fully using all of the talents and experiences that their leadership team brought into the organization, not to mention the ones they have acquired since they have been there. Every now and then, leaders, it makes sense to check the inventory of talent that is sitting around your leadership table. Too often, I see organizations go out to hire new talent when they have that talent within the organization. And here's the deal, if you can give people in your organization new opportunities, then you strengthen the opportunity to retain that talent because you're doing 2 things. You're saying, I see you and I see what you can bring. And the second thing that you're doing is that you're giving them a new opportunity to learn. And everybody values an opportunity to add to their intellectual and their experiential tool chest. So make sure that you are fully leveraging all of the talent at your leadership table. Don't keep that gap in place where you fail to leverage that talent. The second gap that I want to talk about is the failure to make personnel changes quickly. This is one of the hardest gaps to close, especially if you have been investing in a leader. I had the privilege of hearing Meg Whitman speak one time, and she said that part of her job or part of her realization as a leader at eBay is that she had to realize that her job was to have the right person in the right seat at the right time. And it was a real revelation to realize that someone who might have started a new product within the organization may not have been that person that could grow it to a multi-billion-dollar opportunity. And so often we as leaders become emotionally attached to those that we have developed. But sometimes those we have developed may not be the person for the seat that we have put them in. Once you realize that you have made a mistake and it's not the right person in the right seat or the right time, it is incumbent upon you to make those changes quickly. Because another lesson that I learned from an amazing leader, Ursula Burns, is that she said that someone said to her, if you fail to move a poor leader, then you keep the rest of the organization hostage. And leaders, you don't want to keep the rest of your organization hostage so that you or your organization don't get the benefit of your team's intellect or their experience, because that's being compromised by who's sitting on top of them. Another gap that I want to talk to you about is the failure to prepare the bench. This is a huge gap for leaders who are working in a dynamic, fast paced, highly competitive environment where there's a premium in your organization on execution and deliverables. Once you find yourself in that groove, it is easy to find 6 months, 2 years going by without any demonstrative investment that you've made in developing your people. Your legacy is one of the most important parts of who you are as a leader. You want to make sure that you are developing the bench in such a way that if you're called to a higher opportunity, there's somebody in your organization that can immediately step into the role with very little extra investment and be able to prosecute for the organization until they can find an external leader, or for that person to be able to take your seat fully after a period of time. You can't think that it's going to happen on its own. It's a huge leadership gap to not invest in your people to make them ready to lead. It will not just happen, so you must be intentional about it so that you can close that gap. And the last gap that I want to talk about is the failure to innovate. Again, if you're working in a fast paced environment where there's a premium on the execution and the productivity, then it's easy to get caught up in that, especially if you have an industry leading product or an industry leading process. If you're leading, rising tides, as they like to say, we do. If you're leading, as the saying goes, a rising tide will lift all boats. And if you're printing money, it's easy to think that you guys are on the right trajectory. But if you're not innovating, thinking about the next version of your industry leading product or your industry leading process, please know that somebody else is thinking about how they disrupt your success. So it's important that you allocate time every week to thinking about the what else and the what next, so that you are intentionally and consciously focused on innovation and having your team follow you into that journey every single week. Those gaps that we've talked about in this conversation are just a few of those that leaders could have. But if you can be conscious about thinking about your gaps and also investing in a strategy to close them, then you set yourself up for maximizing your success as a leader. Go get them.